You're listening to the Mastermind Parenting Podcast with Randy Rubenstein, episode 14. So the big question is this: how do parents like us know that we aren't messing up the biggest role of our lives, especially when we happen to have a strong-willed child that's constantly pushing our buttons? We've all heard that kids don't come with a manual. So how can we know for sure that we're saying the right things or that we're getting this parenting thing right? Well, on this podcast for parents of toddlers to teens, we'll be giving you real tools you can use right away so that your kids will feel like they can talk to you about absolutely anything and everything. My name's Randy Rubenstein, and welcome to the Mastermind Parenting Podcast, where we believe when your thoughts grow, the conversations in your home flow. Hey, I am Randy Rubenstein with the Mastermind Parenting Podcast, and I have the beautiful Gabi Gerhart with me today, and she owns the Motherhood Center in Houston, and so I'm just going to kick it off with reading your bio.
Sure.
Gabriela Gerhart is the founder of the Motherhood Center. She established this haven for mothers in 2003, turning a lifelong dream into a reality. She discovered her passion for babies and childcare early. She was only 4 years old when her sister was born. I was 6. My sister was my first baby too. And she treasured her role as little mommy. Today, Gabriela touches the lives of thousands of infants, parents, and families through the Motherhood Center. Gabriela was born and raised in the small mountain village of
Jablunkov, Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. She values her hometown's warm and nurturing environment she ensures at the Motherhood Center. I was wondering what the roots were. She received degrees in pediatric nursing and physical therapy. In 1999, Gabriela accepted a position in Houston to help an American couple care for their premature baby. While in Houston, she fell in love with the opportunities, her life, and the man who is now her husband.
19 years.
19 years. But what I'm really curious about is, I know I was following the Motherhood Center for a long time before we met. And back in the day, 1999, when you came here, so I had my first baby in 1998, I remember like breastfeeding was hard. And there was one, Sandy was at Women's Work, the original Women's Work. And I remember I got home from the hospital, the lactation consultants in the hospital were like no help whatsoever. You know, most of the moms in the older generation hadn't really breastfed. So they
would get injection to stop lactating.
Yes. Yeah. So they were like, so the first night home from the hospital, my mom who did actually nurse my younger sister, but my mom was like, he's hungry, give him a bottle. And I was like, no, I want to give him, like, I remember she didn't know how to help me. And so I remember like my husband went and got the pump from Sandy and he came home and he was trying to show me how to use it. And I remember he was like using like male language. He was like, just tweak your nipple. And I was like, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. So then I had this baby that cried all the time and startled all the time. And that's why I started reading and I was on a hunt because the you wasn't here yet. And so I was like, I got to figure this stuff out. And then he would not cry when I would wear him in a baby Bjorn. So I did the baby wearing, but I was almost like people thought, I think like I was a little bit not weird, but I was kind of crunchy, you know, because I was like just in kind of this mainstream community, but I was nursing my baby, I was wearing my baby, and I remember when he was 6 months old, I went to California, and I was like at this Starbucks. It wasn't even like a cool, crunchy California place, it was a Starbucks, and there was just a bunch of moms that looked kind of like me, like maybe a nice purse, but but like also might be wearing Birkenstocks, but also like are wearing some makeup, so just like in the middle of the road. And they were all sitting there and they were like all nursing their babies. And I was like, gosh, we don't have anything. The vibe in Houston, the culture in Houston is so different than this, even though I think a lot of the reason it has shifted is honestly, I think it's what you brought here with the Motherhood Center. Like it has literally changed the culture. Like, do you realize that you have had that much of an impact?
Feeling very flattered right now because when I'm kind of listening to that so I've been in the business almost 20 years.
Right.
And so for 2 decades, you can kind of see the transition. And I can feel the transition from when I started, when I was working as a baby nurse, postpartum doula, and kind of how everything just kind of evolved and progressed. Even just 20 years ago, there were any maternity clothes.
Right.
It was not in.
Right.
Now pregnancy is trendy.
Right.
Breastfeeding is trend. It's really a trend.
Please, I have a bunch of moms in my mastermind. They like eat their placenta. Like they've taken it to a whole new level. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to know the details of that, but they've taken it to a whole new.
So there's definitely kind of very big kind of a transition, and we had over 20,000 clients. So as you are kind of describing that, there was probably a little, I don't want to credit just us, but it's, it might be kind of some kind of a movement we triggered, or just allowed.
Let's just say this. Happen. As women, we don't want to like take credit. Yesterday, one of my friends saw me and she's like, "You look so pretty." And you know what I did? I was like, "Oh, don't look too close. I have some weird like skin thing that's breaking out." And she's like, "I didn't even notice it," And it was like I had to point that out.
Sure.
So, but I do think that this is the thing. It's like, you do represent a movement here. So you brought something here. You came as an au pair and you had this passion did you have the passion for helping moms, or did you have the passion for the babies, or what was it?
So when I was having my little sister, and so whenever we were playing, my role was I was the pregnant. So I still have this scarf here. I put my hair, I had like a long scarf hair, and I was just kind of fluffing it like that. And I would be walking around wobbling. So I was, my role was I'm the pregnant. And so, of course I love babies at that point. I had my little sister, and we had these dolls. We still have them. They were like this size, and 2 dolls. And so we were always playing with them. And so kind of naturally, and living in the small town, and kind of you do have kind of a internalize, and I'm very close with my family and with my family members. And so something kind of naturally was kind of sparking inside. And so when it was time to decide what I'm going to do, and at that point in Czech Republic, the educational system was a little different. So basically at age 14, I had to decide who I wanted to be.
Wow.
And so I wanted to be a pediatric nurse. And so I went to a boarding school at age 15 and started my path of pediatric nursing. And so from then on, of course, it just kind of, the desire and passion grew. And I attended a birth, through the nursing school. And of course, tears rolling down my eyes and, my face. And so there was just kind of things which were not, they just kind of happen, and it started kind of shaping. And so.
Did you, was there a love for, was it like the miracle of the baby? Was it the whole process? Can you pinpoint kind of what it was that? I
think it was just kind of the whole process, the whole experience. It's because that's what it is. I mean, motherhood, parenthood, childhood, it's a complex thing, and so it might not be necessarily like one thing or another. It's just kind of the feeling of it. And so I think that's just kind of.
But what I want to know, what intrigues you the most? Do you think it was from when you were a little girl and you were old enough to see your mother pregnant, and then all of a sudden she gave birth? You were old enough that she gave birth to this little tiny person, and it's almost like and I felt, and I'm projecting here, but I felt like this because I was almost 6 when my sister was born. It was almost like I felt like she was giving me a real life baby alive doll, do you think that whole process of something in your mind as a child was you watched your mom go through pregnancy, and then the fruits of all of that was this precious little baby? Or
see, I don't remember even my mom being pregnant. My
but
memory,
your subconscious remembers
some her, and I never thought about, really honestly, I never thought about these things. My memories are just kind of, and like the bio, it's like really being mommy. And my mom went back to work pretty soon after my sister was born. And so we were staying with my grandma. And so I had to kind of like assume kind of the mommy role. And I was the one who, told my sister, okay, you need to get dressed. I'm going to my first grade and you are going to a daycare. And my sister, of course, would be, throwing fits and, it's like, I don't want to wear this. And now she's had payback. She has a 2-year-old.
Did you do 2 positive choices? You can wear this.
I know, yeah. No, it was like this one. and she always kind of did her thing. And so it literally, and from small town, so we could walk, anywhere. And so I would walk her to her daycare, drop her off, and after that I would go to my, first grade. And so, so those are kind of the memories of like caring for my sister, and we are. I could just start like crying right now. We are just so deeply connected, and I think it's
like your first baby. And I think it's so interesting how you role played the pregnancy part, and then ultimately. Like, isn't that so cool how, because I talk about this a lot with like the people that I teach, in the first 7 years of life, like your subconscious brain is imprinted. So your first 7 years of life, when your subconscious brain was being imprinted, it was imprinted with motherhood. It was imprinted with this miracle of life, and your mother basically handing you this live, beautiful, younger sister. And when you were still in your magical thinking stage, so you're playing and you're role playing and you're the pregnant woman. And then fast forward, you were in, now you're in America, married to Gary, and it's a whole different life, but yet you have created this beautiful life and this business that's helping so many people. You're really in service, but it's all connected to those early roots. Like how cool is that?
I guess I never like really thought about it, and no, I need to probably talk to my mom a little bit more about the first few years, when my sister was born, and she did have some health issues too. So there was like the whole family, the whole village was very zoned in on my sister and her getting better. And so that could probably kind of trigger that too. That
interesting thing is that it was a gift. Like I tell people all the time, like if you allow your kids to step up to the plate and to help, whether it's helping, people are like, oh, when do we have them start doing chores and how much do we pay them and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the point of it all is like, we're a family, we're a unit, we're a team. And just like on a soccer team, you don't want 2 goalies. You want, and I don't know all the soccer positions on terrible sports. You want everybody bringing their different skill sets, and when you feel like a valuable member of your team, like there's nothing like it. So when we allow our kids to step up, like even right now, I went from stay-at-home mom, and now my daughter, she would say, I have a working mom, even though I'm there a lot of times in the afternoon. There are some days that I'm not. And most days she takes her brother to and from school, and she'll say, I have a working mom. And she, like yesterday, I had meetings in the afternoon, and I was like, Corey's got his final baseball game and this, that, and the other. I got this meeting. And she's like, I got it. She's proud of that. When I ask her, when I, to step up to the plate, she feels so proud.
Well, it's so empowering. Just like when we tell your children, set the table. Like, yeah, you can do that, and you can do that in, 1/10 of the time, what they can do. But if you let them set it up, there's this whole new appreciation and this kind of sense of reward, and they can kind of style it however they want to. I mean, sometimes we do kind of like feel like we just, I will just do it.
Because it's faster, it's easier, and
But you are taking away the opportunities for them to learn and to feel good, and
Right, like think about your little first grade self, dropping her at daycare, doing it. Like, could your mom have put her diaper on better, dressed her maybe better, and done all those things? Well, yeah, you were like 6 or 7, but at the end of the day, like the family needed to do what it needed to do, and it all worked out, and it was all good enough. And you got to experience so much value and being so helpful at that young age. Like it's totally, it's just, I don't know, something about that is so curious to me. And when the Motherhood Center popped up and I started hearing about it, I remember just even like, I'd never even heard the term doula. Like all I knew was that when you had a baby, if you wanted some support, then you hired one of the old school baby nurses. And I was like, well, I had been over at somebody's house who had an old school baby, and she was like 90, and and I was like, I'm not going to let somebody like that hold my baby. And then somebody had told me, they're like, no, there's this new place, and they have these people that help you. They're called doulas. And like she was like interacting with my younger kids. They're in love with her. She helped me with the laundry. Like tell me the philosophy a little bit around like the doula, the whole, the just the movement of doulas, or what does doula really mean? What does it stand for?
So, if you would ask multiple people, they might give you a little different answer, and so kind of.
I consider you the authority in these parts.
Well, I appreciate it.
Okay.
So my first kind of role or position here before I even started the Motherhood Center was baby nurse, because that was the only term.
Right.
So I was not the 90-year-old baby nurse, but I was, somebody who had a pediatric background, and so. I basically got a phone call from a friend of a friend, or my husband actually got a phone call from a friend of a friend. We just got home. We have this baby. We have no idea what to do. And we've heard that your wife works with babies. Can she come help us? At that point, I didn't know the term baby nurse yet. And
Did you know the term doula?
No.
No. Okay.
And so I'm like, sure. I love babies. I'm very comfortable. Well, let me, go help them. And so I was there for about 10 days, and mainly kind of at night, sometimes some days during the day. And so they're like, oh, wow, you just, they were just so grateful and so thankful. And so I was able to kind of help them with some routines, helping the mom with breastfeeding, allowing her to take naps. I did little dishes, maybe make a little snack for her while she's nursing, rubbing her feet, rubbing her shoulders, whatever kind of.
Can you guys imagine?
Makes her kind of, comfortable. And so the next thing, I get another phone call, another phone call, another phone call. And so people are referring to me as a baby nurse. I'm like, so what is really baby nurse? And so I kind of start exploring a little bit more and learning that people would be flying to Houston, these women, baby nurses from out of state.
Yes.
A lot of it, New York,
yes, I had
Oklahoma.
A friend who brought, yes.
And so because these women were flown in, they had to be on 24-hour basis. Well, I lived in Houston. And so whenever I would share with the family, because they would first assume, if you're a baby nurse, you're on 24-hour basis. And I said, well, I can just come at night. You don't really need me during the day. Or I could just come and they're like, oh, that would be fabulous, because, I really don't need you during the daytime. And so I started doing that. And that was really kind of a new for Houston. And so 2-3 years late, 2-3 years into it, that was the term doula. And so what it is, it's a really Greek word, and it's a mother, it's a mothering the mother. And so so that was really kind of at the beginnings, and initially the word doula was a lot of times associated with labor. And although I do love labor and kind of the childbearing years, my passion is pregnancy and the postpartum period and the babies. And so I would not kind of, like, if somebody said, oh, do you want to come labor with me? I'm like,
it's like sleep coaching for me. I'm like, I know how to sleep train, but I don't really want to.
And so, so I start kind of exploring that a little bit more. And there were a couple of trainings, one in Oregon, one in San Antonio. And so I entered this postpartum doula training. And so, but at that point, I already started training other women and just kind of passing on my knowledge to other women. And what worked for me, and not only just for me, but what worked for my clients, I kind of start passing that information. And so we kind of start forming a group, and, and so we start getting contacts from other clients. And so really before even the Motherhood Center was formed in 2003, I had another company which was called Loving Infant Care. And so that was really all about, baby nurses, postpartum doulas. And that kind of evolved into the Motherhood Center, because I felt like there was that need. And what started happening is, so I would be with the mom and her family for a week or two or a month or however long. And whenever the assignment was over, the moms would be like, what are we supposed to do now?
So the Motherhood Center is the aftercare. And it's like the pre-care and the aftercare.
So yeah, and so that's how it really evolved. So, 2-3 times I said, well, there is some place for you to go. I didn't know. It's just
they wanted a community center like that was going to support.
It's just like, what are we? Yeah, you gave us all these, the first few days or first few, couple of weeks, and so what do we do now? And so when I started realizing there's nothing else, so I'm like, let me see what, and so the ideas kind of start brewing, and so that's really kind of how the idea of the Motherhood Center, really kind of more of a holistic support before and after, and before, during, and after in a way. And so that's how the Motherhood Center was created.
That's so interesting. A lot of what I do is building the community that I always wanted, especially when I had younger kids. But who I've always wanted, I just remember feeling like, I don't know, going for coffee and this and that, like I wasn't finding my place that felt right. And now it's like I am literally building the community that I wish had existed when I had younger kids. So you really you knew that you saw a need, and then you were like, and like, these people are falling in love with me and I'm falling in love with them, and they're like, don't leave us hanging. We want more support. So you really you've built a community of 20,000 over 20,000. Hey, like that's big. I mean, do you know that, did you feel driven by people need this and I know I can help them? Or did you feel, was there an entrepreneurial spirit within you, or both?
I think it's kind of a collaboration of both. If you would ask me, what are your passions? I would say, pregnancy, babies, motherhood is one passion, and business. I just I love business. So internally, yes, I'm an entrepreneur, and it comes from kind of my grandparents' side, where they were entrepreneurial, and it got shut down during communism, and so so that kind of like, so nobody really talked about it, and so now but me being in America, I had the opportunity to kind of, let it shine, I guess, and so so I do love business, and that's kind of the unique part of the Motherhood Center too. Just like you said earlier, you had the knowledge, but you had to learn to be a business person. And so the Motherhood Center too, if I'm not a business person, Motherhood Center would not exist.
Right.
Because it would, it needs to support itself. It needs to be a business. And so, although I do have this nurturing and caring side to me, and I love what I do, but I have to have kind of the realistic and business side to it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Right. No, I 100% get that. And but I try to get parents to look at the challenges with their kids in the same way. And I would say, like my advanced students, they do, where I'm like, I just did a triggers workshop today, and I'm like, every time your child shows up with a certain behavior and we're like, how can I get them to stop? How can I get them to do what I want? And if you really look into that and you realize getting someone to do something is all about control. So instead, it's an invitation to get curious as, what's coming up for me? Why am I so triggered? Like, kids fight. They bite each other when they're 2 and 4. Like they do this stuff. Like, why am I getting so bent out of shape and acting like a lunatic? What's coming up for me here? And so it's like this curiosity to try to figure out, like, what is it that's making me? And so I just think anytime we're faced with a challenge, it's kind of cool to get curious about our own what's going on in our own brain. You know?
Well, in running business, you have challenges all the time. You just never know what's going to show up for you that day. You know, if it's the phone system goes down and nobody can reach you, or, you know, a client comes in and she has a meltdown and, you know, you stop everything and just be there for her to support her, you know. And so
right, like, how do you face the challenge? How do you meet it? You face yourself over and over and over again. And I agree. It's always like a chance to go, wow, why did that just make me so crazy? You know? And I'm like, I just named a trigger. Nobody puts Randy in a corner, like from Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Oh, yeah.
And I do this whole like process. And then I'm like, and now it's like every time I have that certain sensation, I feel that sensation in my body, and then my brain goes, oh, here's the nobody puts Randy in a corner trigger. Okay. And I remember, because I went through this exercise and I know where the roots of it are, and I can quickly kind of snap myself out of it. You know, I don't know. It's just, it's cool. I just think your story, what you stand for, what you've brought to this community, you know, I think it's so easy for women to say, like how am I going to do that? Or what kind of difference can one person make? You know, and like, just to like look at you, like you came here as an au pair, right? And you had, you know, you grew up in a totally different environment, and yet 20 years later, you've managed to create this amazing business that really all traces back to the roots that happened during your first 7 years of life. Like, it's like you're an example for other women of what is possible. And I also think it's kind of, I asked you before we started, like, if you had any kids, and you told me that you had 2-step kids but no biological children of your own. And my brain was going to a place, I kind of was thinking of like Oprah. And I was like, it's so interesting to me, because I kind of feel like people in a position of truly nurturing and mothering so many other women, that maybe it's like you only have I say this all the time, I only have so much bandwidth here. Like, I can't remember what light switch goes with what light. My husband gets crazy every night. He's like, we've lived here for 10 years. How have you not memorized? Like, you learn all these things. You teach all these. I'm like, I don't know. The bandwidth is done. Like, I only have so much. So it's almost like you have this passion for mothering, and you're mothering all these other mothers. The same thing like with Oprah. And I'm thinking, it's almost like, you know, if you had biological children of your own, would you be able to have created all of this and be helping so many people? Or would you be honed in and focused on the people that, you know, belong to you, that matter obviously the most in the world? Like, it's almost like everybody gets to be your children in a way.
Yeah, of course, we had Mother's Day this past weekend. And so it's kind of a, you know, there's emotions, you know, it triggers all kinds of emotions. And I had a few messages from friends and clients where they said, you know, Happy Mother's Day to the mother of all mothers.
Yes.
You know, and that was just very kind of I'm tearing up here now. You know, it was just very, very touchy. And I did wanted to kind of follow up on kind of how important the first 7 years of child's life and that's one of the, I was just telling that to somebody yesterday. I feel like we as the Motherhood Center and all of our staff, we have such a honor and privilege to be there when the foundation of a family is being formed.
So true.
And it's so critical how the woman is being cared for, you know, how she's processing things, what triggers her, what's not, what, you know, makes her happy, and how to make the transition for her from, you know, really not from even like into the motherhood and really motherhood and fatherhood. But it's really how to make that transition for them as easy as possible, because it's overwhelming. I mean, on so many different levels. And so for us to be there, and it's, you know, with our baby nurses or postpartum doulas, we are there the first hours, when the baby is born, and
It's critical.
and the parents are kind of mimicking us the way, because they don't know.
And you bring that calm, beautiful energy. And so for people who are in this brand new transition in life, like you're entering into a new part of your identity. You've never been a parent before. You've never had, like, this person is wholly reliant on
completely
me, right? Like they will die if I don't care for their every need. And so, like, it is huge. And there's so many layers to motherhood, specifically parenthood, but more motherhood. I mean, men just have it easier in life. They just do, we women, we bring a lot to this motherhood piece. We're all secretly worried. Am I doing it right? Am I screwing it up? This is like the biggest role ever. What if I'm not doing it right? What if they're doing it better than I do? Do they look like they're doing it better? So there's all this kind of negative inner dialogue. Plus you have women that, they say it's like we have a not enough epidemic going on. So there's this negative inner dialogue. And now on top of it, you have to get used to this new huge role. There's so much involved. So, like, to provide that kind of calm, nurturing energy to this very scary transitional time, and then aftercare community with baby classes, and you guys do like all yoga and lots of different things. Are there like lifelong friendships that are being formed between the mommies?
I went to a luncheon, and I hear those stories all the time, but this last week 2 of our clients were co-chairing an event, and it was for family adoption center, and so I was invited as a guest, and 20 of the ladies there, they were all Motherhood Center clients, and they met each other at the Motherhood Center, if it was either prenatal yoga or mom and baby or in our mom's talk, and they created these bonds, and their children are now 10 years old, and so they are
for life.
For life. The children go to the same school. And that's kind of where, going back to where I grew up, it's really kind of recreating the village. And we do have so many of our clients are, Houston being such a transient city and international, so these clients are having babies without a family foundation. It's just them, her and her husband.
And the trickle, think about the trickle down effect too. Like, you're affecting all of these people. And like at this stage of life where you're in this new transition, you're also like, so after you have the baby, then you'll come in for baby yoga. So from the very beginning, you're bringing the breath. Okay, you're bringing the breath into these women's lives again and again. They're making friendships, they're forming community, they're not having to feel isolated and all alone. And then they're going, and their kid starts preschool somewhere, and then elementary school, and they're like, I create community. Like they're going to bring that community, that sense of community that they learned at the Motherhood Center with them in all these other walks of life. So like all the mommy competition and just the BS that's out there, I kind of feel like maybe everyone you affect on a deep level, they then take that and then they spread it forward too. So like how many, you're affecting way more than 20,000 plus.
There was a lady, I met her about a year ago, and she said, I never been to the Motherhood Center, but when it's 2:00 in the morning and I'm just nursing my child, I'm just kind of overwhelmed, I just go to your website. So who knows, thousands, more just beyond kind of the physical clients which came to the Motherhood Center. And it's not just me. I am very selective who is on our team, and anybody who is part of the Motherhood Center has to go through an interview with me and working with me, and so they are kind of the extensions of the Motherhood Center and extensions of me too. And and I do, it's like, because I'm kind of going through a little transition in my life, just kind of coming to myself a little, and kind of who I am as a woman, and there is this kind of a part of me that I do have this kind of a feeling that because of what we've done, we have really impacted so many families in their lives and kind of their foundations. And like you said, you know, them being able to kind of carry it on. And all the clients I worked with, you know, we became friends, and I see how they are raising their children and the quality of people they are and the quality of children they have now. Because I mean, some of our clients, some of my babies are now 18 years old, so they have deep voices, you know. It's like, and of course the mom's like, oh, she was changing your diaper. It's like, yeah, he doesn't want to hear that right now. You know, but it really is kind of a, you know, so who knows, in a few years we will be going completely for full circle, you know, where our babies are going to have babies, you know.
Well, I think that you just touched on, and maybe let me see what time it is. We could go on forever and ever and ever. We probably need to wrap it up a little bit. What you touched on was, you know, I think at the beginning, setting the tone matters so much. I mean, now we know, you and my husband were just talking about it the other day, the way these babies are being imprinted, even in the womb. We have so much more information than we did even just 10 or 15 years ago. And so starting off their life, like they are like little sponges. They're taking in everything, and they take in so much energetically. So when you're not just empowering these people with, you know, knowledge, but you're providing all the support, but you're also like you come from such this, I could just feel it, like this calm, beautiful energy, right? Like you're doing this for all the right reasons. And so everybody feels that. And I think probably everybody that works for you, and you're selective, you're like, I show up excellently, and I'm going to make sure anybody that's a representative of the center also is in alignment. So then you go in and you share that with these families. You help the moms and dads, and you help them not to feel overwhelmed during such a crucial time. But ultimately, you're helping to shape all the little people, you know, because they get this start in life where mom and dad feel empowered and supported, and there's a calm, beautiful energy in the household. Like that baby is being imprinted with that. And so like, it's big. Like I'm like, where my brain, of course, cause I'm into the business thing too. And every one of my moms, like, they're all like, you know, they came to me for parenting, and now we're like, okay, so what businesses are you going to start? You know, my brain's like, we need motherhood centers everywhere. Oh yeah.
I mean, that would be my ultimate goal, you know, because I mean, if you think about it, every city needs motherhood center. One of the kind of the internal things too is for me having a unbiased, non-judgmental support, because we do have clients from all walks of life, different parenting styles, different things. And so that's been kind of one of the kind of challenges, you know, just being able to be kind of all encompassing and just really support the parents or the mom, whatever she is.
Just when you said, sometimes I would rub the feet, that says it all. Like anybody who cares enough about you to come and take care of you, help take care of you when you're learning how to take care of your baby, and wants to rub your feet, like that's pure love, you know? And so I would think anybody that offers to do that or does that for me, I'm like, I could tell you anything, right? Like, you're not going to judge me ever. It's pure love. So I think it's all so good. Thank you so much. Do you have any extra, anything?
No,
share?
Just kind of, yeah. I mean, I do love what I do, and if I could do more, I would do more. And I really, it's, you know, I'm thankful to my parents, you know, that they established the foundation they did for my sister and I, and
so lucky. I know. I say it about my parents too. I'm like, you know what? If I hadn't had as much unconditional love as I had, you know, I could focus on this should have been better, this should have been different, but at the end of the day, I felt like when I walked into the room, you know, their eyes lit up when they saw me, and I'm like, how lucky was I that I received that message? Like all the, you know, chain smoking when we were all laying in bed and we were sandwiched in there, it was all worth it, because at the end of the day, they had the main ingredient right. They just, they sent us the message. There was no one they wanted to be with more than their kids.
It's funny that you say that, because that's kind of our joke, because that's how it was. It was all of our cousins, and, we are sitting in the living room watching the TV, and it's kind of foggy because everybody's smoking. I mean, it just, and so, I
remember my mom being on bed rest with my sister. My sister's almost 6 years younger than me, and she had lost a baby before my sister. So she was literally in the bed, and I would come home from kindergarten, and my grandmother was there staying with us to help take care of me and my brother. And her and my grandma would be in my mom's bedroom watching, I think, Days of Our Lives, and watching Days of Our Lives. And I remember sitting next to my mom and begging her to blow smoke rings in my face. She was on bed rest. I mean, it was just such a different time. And it was and I remember I would ask her to blow the smoke rings so I could put my finger through the hole.
Can you imagine doing it now?
No, and she would probably be mortified that I was telling that story. So if you're watching this, sorry, Mom. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. At Mastermind Parenting, we believe when your thoughts grow, the conversations in your home flow. And if this sounds like something you want to learn more about, then I have a gift for you. You can grab a copy of my best-selling book, The Parent Gap. It's my signature recipe for raising confident and kind kids, even if you have a strong-willed one. So go to mastermindparenting.com/book to get your free copy mailed directly to your doorstep.